I just wanted to explain a cool feminist theory called queer theory, and just sort of give some examples of that. Queer theory is a method of thinking in which individuals reject the concept of social norms and view them as oppressive. Instead, it argues that individuals cannot be grouped into definitive categories since identity is a spectrum that is constantly changing based on the location, time period, context, people around you, etc. People applying the principles of queer theory tend to stray from medial and societal tropes and view each individual as unique. Therefore, they do not use stereotypes or make assumptions. This can really help those that society ostracizes, such as Black, Indigenous people of color, LGBTQ plus individuals, those with disabilities, and much, much more. Our society tends to focus on cheap and often unrealistic stereotypes when viewing these individuals. And queer theory also relates to the concept of disidentification, which explains how marginalized people may identify with the current social norm as a defense mechanism to protect themselves from scrutiny and the danger associated with being a member of a marginalized group. A common example of this is code switching, where this is typically like Black or any people of color, really. Individuals change the way they talk and what they talk about in order to fit in better with like a white normative crowd. This is a survival mechanism in order to avoid discrimination and hate crimes, and is actually talked about in some seasons of a show, which I thought was really cool. And this was mentioned in the show Big Mouth. And this show does a really great job of talking about queer theory practices, although this term is not directly used. The show talks about different topics relating to sexuality and some of the spectrums of sexualities and genders present in society. It also delves into the spectrum of Black identity and the issues that social norms bring up for Black, Indigenous people of color. Another great example of queer theory is media is the show Sex Education, which I love, and this talks about topics and converses about a large range of LGBTQ plus identities, including bisexuality, pansexuality, asexuality, as well as gay and non-binary identities. Shows like these that challenge social norms and prove that identity and sexuality cannot be placed in boxes reveals how meaningful art and media is in influencing society. By talking about issues that might not be spoken about in less diverse and understanding areas, they ensure that the population can get relatively easy access to information that's not taught in many schools or households. In doing so, it allows marginalized individuals to have something to relate to and shows them that they are not alone, providing them with stepping stones to opening up conversations about this with those in their lives. The more people that share their thoughts and experiences, the more proof that just because someone or something differs from the majority does not mean that their identity is not real or valid. It helps to normalize atypical behaviors, even in communities where people are unable to speak up about their identities for fear of rejection or harm. Representation truly matters in bringing about social changes and switching from a more binary way of thinking to a queer theory, embracing mindset that celebrates diversity and the things that typically stray from societal norms. This topic of queer theory is highly related to feminist principles, as feminists advocate for equality and representation. A major example of its relatedness is shown through the concept of intersectionality, which argues that all issues relating to identity must be tackled with gender identity, since things other than gender can influence discrimination against women. For instance, a Black woman would typically face far more discrimination than a white woman, so simply placing all of those women in the same box does not truly represent the types of discrimination and issues faced by women. This advocates for a wide range of identity types and that not just the biggest grouping matters. Since societal norms are being rejected and marginalized identities are being discussed when talking about the issues of identity, this seems to encompass the meaning of queer theory. I thought it would just be good to share these definitions and examples because it's really important making everyone aware, and not everyone has access to education about these topics.